In this video, you will learn how to solve different math problems to prepare for the ASVAB and CFAT test. What is the equation for the axis of symmetry in the attached parabola? So in this problem here, we're given a graph and it's a parabola. A parabola is a graph of a quadratic equation. And a quadratic equation is an equation with a degree or the highest exponent is equal to 2 in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are constants or the coefficients of each of the terms. Now in the problem, we are asked for the equation of the axis of symmetry. So what is an axis of symmetry? The axis of symmetry is the symmetry cuts of any geometric shape into two equal halves. So in this case, in this problem, we're given a parabola. So the axis of symmetry here always goes through the vertex of the parabola. Or we can say that the axis of symmetry is a vertical line that goes through the x-coordinate of the vertex. In cases where the parabola opens upwards or downwards, this is not accurate. Let's say this is a parabola that opens upwards and this is a parabola that opens downwards. So the vertex for this one, the first parabola, is this one, and that's the lowest point, and the vertex of the second parabola is this one, which is the highest peak or the highest point, maximum point. Now in the graph, we're given a parabola that opens upwards, this one, and the axis of symmetry always goes through the vertex of the parabola, and it is the vertical line that goes through the x-coordinate of the vertex. Since this is the vertex of this graph, so the axis of symmetry would be this one. Then whatever this point is, so this point is an ordered pair, which is x and y. So the axis of symmetry here will be the value of x, or the x coordinate. Now let's take a look at the given graph here again. Notice that we're given here, there is this blue line. Well, this is blue-green or turquoise line, broken line, that cuts the parabola into two equal halves, and it goes through its vertex. So the vertex is this one, and the value of x here is this one. X equals -2, because it is on the left side of the graph, or it's in the third quadrant of the graph. Therefore, the equation of the axis of symmetry here is x equals 2. So the answer here is this one. And by the way, in cases where you are asked for the equation for the axis of symmetry, wherein the graph isn't given, or let's say you're just given the equation of the quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, let's equate that to 0. Let's say you're only given the equation, then you can use the formula for the axis of symmetry, which is x equals -b over 2a, where b here is the coefficient of the middle term and a is the coefficient of the leading term, or the leading coefficient. Then plugging in the values of b and a to this formula, then you can find the value of x, or the equation for the axis of symmetry for the quadratic equation. What are the roots of the equation x squared plus x minus 20 equals 0? So we are asked here for the roots of the given equation, and the given equation here is a quadratic equation. So to solve for the roots, or to find the roots, we can factor the equation. And you have to keep in mind the difference between a factor and a root. When we say factor, okay, a factor is in the form x plus a. But when we say a root, we can equate x plus a, this is a, to 0. This is a 0 property. And then we subtract a from both sides. Therefore, the value of x here is equal to negative a. So x here is the root. So take note of that. Now let's solve for or find the roots of this given equation here. So we're given x squared plus x minus 20 equals 0. Now to solve this, we need to factor. If you cannot factor, then you can use the quadratic formula. So make sure you memorize the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So where a, b, and c are the coefficients of the standard form of the quadratic equation. Now let's try factoring this equation first. Okay, so we have x squared plus x minus 20. Now to factor this, we look for, factors of 20, okay, that when we multiply them, it would equal to negative 20, and then when we add them, it would equal to positive 1, or positive 1 here, for the coefficient of the middle term. So the factors of 20 are 5 and 4, 1 and 20, 10 and 2. Okay, let's try adding them up. Since the coefficient of the middle term is positive, so the larger number should be positive, and the smaller number should be negative. Alright, so when we try 5 minus 4, this would give us positive 1. This is 19. This one is 8. So the factors that we're going to use are 5 and negative 4, because it adds up and it will be equal to positive 1. So this would be x plus 5, x times x minus 4. Now, to solve for the roots, or to find the roots of this equation, we need to equate each of the factors to 0. So this would be x plus 5 equals 0, and the other x would be x minus 4 equals 0. And then we solve for x. So subtract 5 from both sides. Then the value of x here is negative 5. And then we add 4 here to both sides. Then x is equal to 4. Therefore, the roots of x squared plus x minus 20 are negative 5 and positive 4. So the answer here is this one. Convert 520,000 to scientific notation. So how do we convert large numbers into scientific notation? So when dealing with very large or very small numbers, computing is made easier by writing these numbers in scientific notation. So a number written in this format has two parts, which are the decimal part and the exponent part. So it should be in the form real number, all right, times 10 to the n. So this one is the decimal part, and this one is the exponent part. Now the decimal part must be a real number between 1 and 10, excluding 10, the decimal point is placed after the first digit, while the exponent part, which is 10 to the power of n, this uses a base 10 raised to a power. The power n here is the number of places the decimal point was moved from its initial position to its new position when written as a scientific notation. So when n is positive, right, when the exponent of 10 here is positive, this means that the decimal point was moved n places to the left. If n is negative, this means that the decimal point was moved n places to the right. So take note of that. So if this is, let's see, this is the decimal point. Okay, if you move that to the left, then the exponent of n is positive. If you move the decimal point to the right, then the exponent n is negative. All right, so now let's convert 520,000 to scientific notation. Now to express this number, okay, 520,000 in scientific notation, we first write the decimal part with the decimal written after the first digit. So we disregard 0 here. Okay. Or we move the decimal point to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't have any decimal points in the given number. We just imagine like we move from here, the decimal point from here to the left. Since the decimal part of the scientific notation should be a real number between 1 and 10. So the decimal point should be between 5 and 2. Therefore, decimal part of the scientific notation would be 5.2. Now we write the exponent part, so taking note of the n, which indicates the number of places moved by the decimal point from its initial position in 520,000. The decimal point here is understood to be at the end of the number to get to its position in 5.2 or 5.200. Now let's count how many times we moved the decimal point from the end of the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we moved it to the left 5 times, or 5 points or 5 places to the left. And again, I've already discussed a while ago that when we move the decimal point to n places to the left, the exponent of 10, base 10, or the value of n would be positive. Therefore, the exponent part of the scientific notation would be times 10 to the 5th. Therefore, 520,000 can be written in scientific notation as 5.2 times 10 to the 5th. So the answer here is this one. If 0.08 over x equals 1, then x equals blank. So we're given here this expression and we need to solve for the value of x. So let me rewrite that here, 0.08 over x equals 1. Now to solve this, we can multiply both sides of the equation expression by x. So this would become 0.08 times x over x equals 1 times x. and then x here cancels out, then we'll be left with 0.08 equals x. Therefore, the value of x here is 0.08. So the answer here is this one.